Okay. I want to make a video about gender because I said I would. I identify as non-binary transgender, which basically means that the two genders that most people are given, you know, these are your choices of things that you can be, if you're given a choice at all. You're either a boy or you're a girl. And I've tried doing both of those things, and I really am not comfortable with either of them, so as a result, I am just somewhere in the middle, or just somewhere way off in left field, just not either of those things. So basically what that means for me is that I can still be really feminine and I can still be really masculine, but I do both of those things from a standpoint of not being a girl and not being a boy. And so in that way, it's kind of like an act of resistance against gender as a whole. And it's a way of taking back the things that I do as being things that I do for me and not things that I do because I'm like supposed to do them in order to fit into A or B slot. When I was a little kiddo, I wanted really, really, really bad to be a boy. Like, I look back a lot at my life as having an atypical, like, gender narrative, I guess, because I've heard so many stories of trans people who really, like, they're like, I always knew I was that other gender. And I didn't always know. I didn't know that that was an option of something that I could do for a very long time, for most of my life. But I remember when I was a little kid, like, looking back, there's actually a lot of shit in my past where I'm like, I was queer as shit even when I was a kid, I just didn't understand it. Like, I wanted to be a boy very badly when I was a little kid. I distinctly remember thinking, you know, I want to be a boy because boys get to do cool stuff. Boys get to, like, play sports, and they get, like, I remember thinking that boys got a lot of prestige for the things that they did that girls didn't. Like, you know, academics, and I was like, you know, boys get to be heads of companies and leaders, and they get to, you know, ask girls out and decide what you do when you go on a date and stuff like that. And I really, really wanted to be a boy. So when I was like 16 or 17, I was in high school, like towards the end of high school. Like I tried girlhood for a long time. I learned pretty early on that I could not live up to the standards of girlhood, like what was expected of me as a girl. Like, I didn't think I was pretty enough to, like, compete with other girls, specifically for the attention of boys. I didn't think that, I didn't want anything to do with the kind of competition that goes on between girls. There's a while where I really hated girls and, like, all the stuff that you typically associate with girlhood, like liking makeup and caring about your appearance and, like, gossiping and that kind of stuff. But that's, like, I think that's pretty typical, you know, just the misogyny that comes with growing up in a system that kind of hates you a little bit. And so, I tried to be a girl for a while, and I learned really fast that I couldn't do that. I wasn't good at it. I couldn't live up to the standards of girlhood. And so when I was like 17, I think, I started to, like, learn about trans culture and, you know, through Tumblr, like through the internet. And I was, like, living at home with my parents. I didn't have a social life outside of the internet, really. It was the year between between finishing high school and starting college. I took a year off, and that was, like, a year of personal exploration shit. And I tried for a long time to be a boy because I found trans culture, and I was like, well, what if I'm trans? What if I could be a boy instead? What if I could actually make the choice to be a boy? And I got hung up really hard on the whole choice thing. like the difference between I am a boy versus I want to be a boy, which is a really arbitrary distinction now, I think. Like, I don't think there should, like, that shouldn't make a difference in, like, what you choose to do with your gender. But while I was trying to be a boy, I was so concerned with passing and, like, having other people see me as a boy. And I just was not getting it. Like, I bought a binder that I wouldn't have boobs anymore. I was buying, like, clothes from the little boys section at Walmart because they were the only ones that would fit me and that I could afford. And I was, like, presenting in a really masculine way. I, like, shaved my head. And I was doing all these things trying to get, like, people in my life to treat me like a boy, and I just wasn't being taken seriously. And that was really, really depressing because I also couldn't take myself seriously because I was just like, you know, I don't look like a boy, I don't sound like a boy, no one's ever gonna believe me, no one's ever gonna see me as cis, and like a cis boy. And it was really discouraging. And so after a while, I just decided that that was more trouble than it was worth, for the exact same reason that I decided being a girl was more trouble than it's worth, which is that I just can't live up to the standards of what is expected of me. Like, that's not fun, it's not comfortable, it's not, like, good for my mental health to try and force myself into either of those boxes. And so now, I still have days where I feel way more aligned to one or the other binary genders. Like, I'll have boy days where I'm just, like, feeling like a little dude, like, I want to be a boy, I want to, you know, do masculinity, and that kind of thing. That's a part of it that's really important to me, is, like, kind of seeing gender as a performance. That gender is a thing that I do. Like, my presentation is malleable. Like, there are days when I'm really feminine and there are days when I'm really masculine, but neither of those things are necessarily related to my actual gender. Like, I'm super okay with, like, being a boy, but only in this kind of almost fake way. Like, I'm a fake boy. Like, I don't want anything to do with manhood or, like, being the toughest and the strongest and, like, being powerful and, you know, taking the initiative in dealing, you know, with romantic stuff and that kind of thing. Like, that kind of thing makes me really uncomfortable, just because of, like, the power imbalance there is between men and women. I'm okay with boyhood, specifically boyhood rather than manhood, in that if I think of myself as a boy, I like to be a boy who's very quiet and kind and, like, soft towards other people. What was it that I said the other day? Like, Mr. Rogers, but in a punk way. Like, I'm really into performing masculinity in that way. And so because of that, I sometimes describe myself as a non-binary boy. And on the flip side, I'm okay with performing femininity with, you know, like, dressing in really feminine clothes, doing the whole makeup thing. But if I do that with the intention of, like, you know, I'm a girl and I'm going to do this because I want men to look at me and find me pleasing, it makes me feel horrible. And I hate it, and it's extremely uncomfortable. And I'm just, like, not comfortable in my own skin when I'm doing that. But on the flip side, when I'm doing femininity from a standpoint of, like, I'm a crazy weird queer and I'm doing this femme stuff, but I'm not a girl, then that's when I'm like, yeah, this is cool, this is great, this feels good. So, like, I really enjoy femininity, but only from a standpoint of not being a girl while I'm doing it. And all of that stuff has come to be really important to me. Like, the community is really, really, really important to me. Like, the number of friends I've made who are queer, who are trans, especially who are non-binary trans, it's like, it's just been looking at other people and seeing myself in them. Like, just seeing that they are doing the kinds of things that I want to do. They're presenting themselves in a way that I want to present myself to the world, not only in like a gender presentation way, but in a like a whole person kind of way. I just like the amount of acceptance and love that I've found in the queer community is unbelievable. And it's kind of important that other people who aren't in the queer community read me for what I am, because it kind of alters the way that I deal with people. Like, one thing my friend Donut mentioned one time is the concept of heterotension. It's like the kind of weird sexual tension that is between two people when one of them reads the other one as being the opposite gender and sex. That's probably not the most accurate thing, but it's like if a dude looks at me and reads me as a girl and then decides that I'm sexually appealing to me, there's a tension in the way that we interact with each other, and I hate that. It makes me so uncomfortable. And so if I come at people from this standpoint of being like really butch, or just being like right off the bat, hey, I'm not a girl, because I mean the name that I go by now, Slim, is a really androgynous name, I guess. It's a nickname, so it's not really gendered in any way. And if all of the people around me are using they and them pronouns to talk about me instead of he or she, then that means that other people around me can't just immediately place me into one or the other gender box and then treat me the way that they expect to treat people in that gender box, if that makes sense. I think, ideally, someday I would like to start testosterone. Honestly, I would like to be on testosterone right now. If I could start that tomorrow, I would do it, but it's not an option right now. But I would like to eventually reach a presentation that's confusing to most people, so that like I don't have to explain myself in order to like I don't have to explain to people that I'm not a girl in order for them to not immediately mentally gender me as a girl. Because right now for a lot of people, especially like cis people, it takes a while of them knowing that I'm queer and then like using they and them pronouns and then like getting some amount of education either through me or through other people about what that means for them to like stop doing the thing. And so it would be easier. Ideally, I'd really like to like have a deeper voice, have more like physical strength, to have a more masculine physical presence. If only so that, you know, if I go out and I'm like wearing a dress and then I have a really like a voice that's 2 octaves deeper than it is now, then it won't be okay. Then like people still won't immediately gender me as a girl. But also just to like make different presentations more accessible to me, so that like if I'm gonna go out and I want to be read as a boy, I can be read as a boy. But if I want to go out and I want to be read as a girl, I can still be read as a girl. Ideally, that would be the best. To choose between, to just more easily be able to choose the way that I'm perceived by other people. And to, especially to have the choice to confuse people, which I kind of get now. Like, I get sir, hey sir, how are you doing? Like that kind of thing, sometimes, until I open my mouth. And so that's, I mean, it's kind of cool that I can do that, but I want to be able to do that more easily. So yeah, that's the gender video.